Hi, everyone. Thank you for participating on today's webinar. We will focus on cash flow and strategies for B2B SaaS success. I think this has been a super hot topic with almost every SaaS leader that I've been talking to for the last months. And I'm Klara, I'm working at Younium, and with me today I have Johan as well. We will introduce ourselves in a moment and talk a little bit about our perspective on today's webinar. But just to set some expectations, we have decided to ditch the slides for today's session and more having an interactive session among me and Johan. And I think we will focus more on the cash inside, and I might be a little bit biased here as a seller. I would argue that's the hard part when running a recurring revenue business. And just a few housekeeping rules. So we have dedicated 50 minutes for this webinar, and this is being recorded. So we will send out within a couple of days the slides with some key takeaways and the recording. We also have an interesting, exciting thing today. We will hand out after the webinar a metrics guidebook, because we all know that we love to measure all the KPIs in SaaS. But I think if we tie this to cash flow, focusing on the contracted monthly recurring revenue in combination with contracted annual recurring revenue, and sort of tie this to how fast contracts converge to cash, is crucial when forecasting cash flow. So Johan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Klara. I'm excited to be here at the webinar and together with you, Klara. Really looking forward to this. So my first 8 years, I had operational roles outside of finance, and then I turned on to the finance track, and I was CFO for a Swedish purchase-to-pay company called Medius. We back then had a turnover of 25 million euro and consolidating 8 legal entities internationally. So it was an exciting journey. And then I jumped on the CEO track for a while. I joined a small company here in Sweden with a clear ambition to go public. It was a little bit of another sentiment in the stock market back then in 2017. But it was a great journey, and I was there for 5 years, learned a lot. Then I decided to take a year off with my family and my 2 small kids. And then I was approached by Per Nordling, the founder of Medius, who I've been working with previously. And he asked me to join an investment company, start up an investment company together with him. So I'm the co-founder of the investment company Parting Capital, investing in B2B scale-up companies in early stages. And in parallel, my good old friend Niklas Lilja was starting up a company called Younium, as you probably know, guys. And I knew Niklas since 20 years, and he asked me for some support in the finance team. So I joined as CFO for Younium in parallel. So here I am now, and happy to share my expertise in terms of hands-on cash flow advice. And as you heard from my background now, I'm more of an operational CFO rather than the accounting CFO. So hope that you today will learn some hands-on advice on cash flow strategies.
Great intro, Johan. Hervoja, you can go back 1 slide so I can introduce myself. Yes. So Klara, been part of Younium for almost 3 years, a senior account executive, acquiring new customers in Nordics and the UK. Coming from a background where I've been working and developing B2B SaaS businesses for the last 8 years. Previously worked in a partner role at Microsoft, where Younium actually was one of my partners, so then I jumped ships. But I hope that I can come in with an angle, what I've seen when I talk to a lot of B2B SaaS businesses. So yeah, we can actually go to the agenda now. So today we will focus a little bit on the background, why we're sitting here, and then we have sort of 3 areas that we will emphasize on. So a little bit around key strategies for improving cash flow, and also, of course, the role of technology and automation, which I think is very crucial, and also a little bit how you can go about mitigating risks and future-proofing cash flow. And we will close up with a Q&A session, so I hope that you have a lot of questions at the end. Good. But okay, why are we sitting here? I think this will not come as a shock for anyone. The ground has really shifted for the past 2 years. I think it's been kind of a ride, a little bit of turbulence, and we have been trying to keep our heads up and just enjoy this roller coaster. At least I have. But what I've seen from my perspective as a seller, of course, is that the sales cycles have been longer, more stakeholders involved, and that's, of course, have an effect on cash flow. And also when I speak to SaaS leaders out there, it's more challenging maybe to secure that next funding round, get the valuation you want out of your business. And I do sort of have a gut feeling that you need to be close to cash flow positive to even get a seat at the table when you speak to investors. So Johan, if you would sort of describe this shift and sort of the main characteristics from your eyes as an investor.
Yeah, thanks, Klara. Yeah, I think what we've seen over the last 2 years is that especially for the B2B SaaS ecosystem, cash got stuck in the hands of the investors, and in parallel to that, we've seen that the price for cash has increased significantly due to wars and macroeconomic uncertainties. So I think we'll expect to see lower interest rates in the near future, at least in Scandinavia, maybe a bit postponed in the US, and we'll see what ECB and Europe does. But I think we will see lower interest rates, but below 0 interest rates, I think it's far away. So looking at valuation of B2B SaaS companies, we've seen that ARR multiples, which is a typically valuation driver of B2B SaaS companies, is in the same range today as around 10 years ago. So we had this hike in valuations and peak in valuations in 2021, but now we're back on the same level as 10 years ago. So I mean, it is a scenario that we've seen before, this level of valuations, but I think we will probably see some growth in ARR multiples, but we have to understand that the 2021 and what we saw a few years ago it was more of a peak, and maybe we're entering more of the normal, new normal around this ARR multiples.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we know that really high-performing companies with a solid growth and I mean aggressive growth, and with the cash flow, a good cash flow can get very high multiples. Because there's a lot of cash on the sideline waiting to get invested, and for really high-performing companies, it will be high valuations out there.
Yeah, and I'm a true optimist. I definitely see the light in the tunnel. I've been doing that from a seller perspective for a while, at least. But if we go into a little bit around key strategies when it comes to cash flow, because as you mentioned, I remember when I started at Younium back in 2021, it was literally growth of all cost, no discussions whatsoever around cash flow in the dialogues I was. It's been shifting now. I would argue that growth of all cost is dead, but I think accelerating growth definitely is on the horizon. But now it's much more focused around efficiency, and what would you say if we zoom in on growth and cash flow? what would be your take to balancing those two?
Yeah, I think first of all, we need to consider what stage the company is in. I think in today's environment, more mature B2B SaaS companies is expected to a much higher extent to be cash flow positive or cash flow neutral, or have a very clear roadmap. And then I mean short term, like 3 to 6 months to get cash flow positive. I think that is absolute key for more mature companies. Obviously, if you're looking for like startups that are looking to really nail their product market fit and get the traction to like get customers to pay for their services, obviously it's a different game. But all in all, it's much more positive. Cash flow positive is much more important today. And it's also, I think, if you take one step back and look into this, if you're a cash flow positive company, you are actually deciding your own destiny. You as a management team do usually not want to have board intervention, and board intervention is usually when you need to go to shareholders and asking for more cash. So I think staying cash flow positive is a very attractive position, because then you decide your own destiny. And I totally agree with you, Klara. A decent cash flow in today's economy is like the entrance ticket to sit at the investor's table. And I would say the growth rate will decide the ARR multiple and hence the valuation of the company. So that's my take on this.
Yeah. Good take. So I also have a lot of discussions now with SaaS businesses, and I feel like many is, as you said, to get a seat at the table, you need to become more close to cash flow positive. So that is a discussion I have with a lot of SaaS leaders out there. So if you're striving to become cash flow positive, how should you think about that? Should you decrease cost or increase growth, or like what's the balance there?
Yeah, I think referencing back to the fact that the growth rate is an important driver of the valuation. I think, I mean, a really good thing is to focus on scaling up your company, and I think I would never lose sight on the revenues, the cash in side of the business, and I agree with you totally, Klara, on what you mentioned in the intro about that cash in is like very, very important. And also obviously looking into payment terms and payment patterns from customers to understand how your business is converting into cash, how your deals are converting into cash. And if I'm a bit straightforward, I would say cutting cost is easy compared to get an efficient time to cash later on the cash in part of your business. It's many times tougher to do that. So I would really put an emphasis on trying to stay as lean as possible, and obviously without jeopardizing to keep up with competition. But all in all, never lose sight on the cash in and the revenues.
Yeah. Great. And we started to maybe go into that topic, but what metrics should you sort of look at when steering on cash flow?
Yeah, I think there are many important metrics. I mean, SaaS businesses tend to be, data-driven, and it's very, very important to have your dashboard in place, to have your key metrics in place. And but I would really highlight the contracted ARR 12 months compared to the rolling 12 months cash in. And I think that it's a good quality stamp on how the deals that you are signing. If you're contracted subscription value for 12 months, is converting to cash accordingly. So, and then I obviously have some few assumptions on this, that it's within a 12-month period, then your discounts has ended if you have any discounts on the deals. And also, if you have professional services that you're billing to the customers that is outside of your subscription revenues, that could cover up for any discounts, first-year discounts or free of charge month, so that you're aligning the overall cash flow to your contracted ARR. And it's also about looking into, I think another important metric is obviously how the customers are paying. A popular KPI is DSO, that is outstanding. And I think that's absolutely, I mean, applicable KPI for many B2B SaaS companies that are doing invoicing. But it's also important to see if you can add on like credit card payments and such. So given that, I also I put a focus on DSO for sure, important, but also you can keep it simple and just make sure to have a very, very structured approach on your invoice overdue. I mean, look into 0 to 30 days overdue. If there's more than 30, I mean, alarm bells should be ringing, and those should be eliminated as soon as possible. So try to name down the process, and as soon as overdue invoices occur, take action, and don't let it pile up. That's a clear advice. And I would say maybe the third thing would obviously be also to keep a close eye also, and try to learn and to improve on forecasting your cash flows. If you have a very good cash flow forecast report, and that you start to put in focus on nailing your cash flow forecast. I know it's easier to say than to really do it, but if you keep a focus on it and you compare the actuals versus forecast every month, you will learn how to meet your cash flow forecast targets on the cash in side, and you will learn your seasonal effects, and that will help you manage your business and steer your business in a better way.
Yeah. Great takeaways. I will shift now a little bit into the next topic that I think it's close to heart for both of us, and that is like the role of automation and technology. And I think this is kind of crucial when running a SaaS business. And I, of course, meet a lot of SaaS leaders out there. They have very manual processes when it comes to invoicing. It's one thing to get the signature in place, but it's another thing to get the cash in the bank account. And what I see in many cases is that it is really like a gap between sales and finance. So what would you say, Johan, is like the common pitfalls when it comes to ensuring good cash flow management?
I think I think for sure it's cash flow. The hard thing is the cash in, as I've said before, and I think a pitfall could be that you focus a lot on too much on the cost side, and you put the emphasis on that. And obviously, you should be on top of you should have a good, solid cost control of your company. But all in all, it's focus on the cash in. And obviously, it's important to do, like, as I said before, this forecasting, budgeting, and very strict actuals versus follow-up analysis. And I mean, a lot of B2B SaaS companies has fairly limited resources, right, on the finance and overhead in general. And I think that is the way to go. I think that is right. But on the other hand, then I think we really need to have a solid technology foundation and a CFO stack to have the automation in place, so that you can really take action and communicate to the management team, to the rest of the organization, what action that needs to be taken. I think I see people that are not getting into this actionable mode, rather than doing more controlling and stuff, and then the change and the transformation of the company is slowed down by the finance team not taking action. And so I think set up a clear dashboard, a few KPIs that you can drill down into so that you know you have a good dashboard to take action from, but then also put your focus on nailing the cash in process.
And I've seen examples where sellers needs to do parts of the dunning process. If that was up to me, you would be a very unhappy CFO. I can tell you that, Johan.
I think that's a really good example, Klara, where then if you're focusing on scaling up the business and get the cash in, it's the passive approach of getting cash in, to have sales reps hunting for payments. I think then you slow down the growth of the company. So that has to be solved by the customer success team, key account management, together with finance. Obviously, you can in the end shut down the service if you're a B2B SaaS company, but I think that should really be like the end point, and because it's in the end, it's the people that is purchasing your services, right? So I mean, talk to them and try to understand why if payments are stuck, but it shouldn't be the sales rep. Right, Klara, what do you think?
No, I would, I'm happy that I work at Younium. It's just a click of a button. But if we look, when you invest in SaaS businesses, would you say that it's common that it's like lack of supporting tools when it comes to cash flow efficiency?
Yeah, I think so. In the range of size of companies that we are ranging for between 1 million euro ARR to 3 million euro ARR, I think this process is often has improvement potential. Let's put it that way. So I think it's a lot to do as an entrepreneur and for this type of scale up companies, and I think for sure it's in improvement area. I see also bigger companies that we are working with, and there's always improvements areas also related to the tooling and how you set things up, and when you integrate to payment gateways and such. So I think I often see that there are improvements areas, yes, and it could be much more automized.
Yeah, but I also feel like SaaS were sort of born in spreadsheet, to run the business in a spreadsheet. Like if you would look at a different industry, like a manufacturing company, I'm sure that they are not running the most critical part of their business in spreadsheet, but it's very common when you talk to sometimes plus 10 million euro ARR companies. And what I see is that many of those companies are missing invoices, upsells and renewals due to lack of insight in the whole contract stock.
Yeah. And also to have a cash flow forecast by the click of a button. I think that is also key, emphasizing the cash in part of your business, and to really have a good visibility on expected payments going forward. It shouldn't be more than a click on a button away.
Yeah. And do you have, now we have gone through some practical tips maybe, but do you have any other practical tips when it comes to ensuring management?
Yeah, I think key is obviously upfront invoicing, looking into how the B2B SaaS companies are set up. It's usually payments go out to salaries to a large extent on your cost side. That is typically monthly. And then if you can get upfront invoicing, preferably 12 months, that's very attractive. So really put in efforts there, talk to your sales teams, see how you can improve on that. Evaluate the PS payment gateways integrations and to payment service providers, and evaluate credit payments, especially if you're selling to the US. They're more happy to pay also bigger tickets in by credit cards and billing. But obviously that's it's also important that you say, and you touched upon, Klara, about, I mean, the roles in the company. Review your handovers, sales to order management. Is that efficient? Is everything clear? Is the contract, is the handover correct? Is it VAT codes included and stuff that usually postpone billing? So I would really review handovers, and as we touched upon earlier, review your dunning process so that right people is doing the dunning. So I think there's quite a few things there, and also try to add auto renewal into your contracts to have early billing for next period. A few hands-on tips there.
Yeah, really great. And we will shift a little bit now and go into more how you can mitigate risks and future-proofing cash flow. And I really love this topic because it's not only in the hands of finance, I would say. There is a lot of things you can do upon the signature with the customer, if you're in sales, customer success, or whoever does that. I think it's just like having that clear communication, set the expectations with the customer. It should be crystal clear what they sign off on in terms of the pricing model, how will they scale maybe with the price model, and also around all the contract terms. I think if you have those expectations, you will probably at least have a customer that pays the initial invoice. So if we look a little bit on the view between the correlation between cash flow and contract and price terms, what's your take on that one? Is it important?
Yeah, it's crucial, I would say, for sure. And I mean, if you're missing out on a solid legal contract structure in your customer agreement, you're adding risk that misunderstandings will occur, or expectation management issues arises, and then as soon as anything is up for interpretation, it's usually when payments are happening later. So I'd really put a lot of emphasis on that. It's a very important correlation between your contract structures and your cash flow, cash in, and obviously especially for like payment terms, payment in advance. Also onboarding fees, preferably smaller projects to be billed up front. And also really strive for time-limited discounts if discounts apply, but usually they do in B2B SaaS businesses. That's part of how we do business. And auto renewal, as I said before, so that it's automatically renews. So I think to review together with your sales team the contract structure, and it's a joint effort in making the order to cash process as smooth as possible. And then another input is that and the importance of, when you define your pricing models, really try to identify price drivers that enables you to increase the subscription value for the customers that are growing with your solution. So that if the customer is growing, your revenue is also growing. It obviously improves your net retention a lot. And I know it's also easier said than done, but see if there's like parts of your subscription revenues that could be related to if the company grow, your subscription revenues will increase. I would put in some efforts there because it could really impact and your scaling in a positive way. So that's an important thing to have in mind.
Yeah. And I can tell you one thing, you will never 100% at Younium get rid of those discounts, Johan. But if we have focused a lot on the cash in, if we would focus a little bit on cost savings, like what would you say, what cost savings measurement can you implement without sacrificing growth or customer satisfaction? It's a little bit tricky, but
yeah, and maybe I sound like a politician right now, but obviously it depends. It depends on your business, and I mean it depends on the competitive landscape and what market you're in. If you're about to do a big US entry, it comes into another scenario, and obviously other go-to-market strategies as well. But I would say what is applicable to all companies, I would say, is to really, in this growth phase that a lot of SaaS companies is try to stay as lean as possible. I think in general, SaaS companies is good at that. Just keep that focus still, and try to minimize overhead and extra management layers. I mean, looking at the cost side, we know that B2B SaaS company employee personnel, usually 60-70% of the cost base. That is usually paid like monthly, right? We get a monthly bill, or in the US they could have a payment twice a month. But all in all, the cost and the cash out relates fairly good, up to like usually 60-70% of your cost base. So given that, I put the focus there. Really, the big chunk of the cost in your company. I mean, try to have as much operational efficiency as possible. Okay, but give me some hands-on advice then. Yeah, I would implement performance reviews. I would implement performance reviews very regularly to evaluate the performance and see how you can tweak the performance of each individual. I would even add performance reviews with consultants that you're working with on recurring basis, if they are up for it. But I think you could for sure you should present that as a scenario, and because as soon as you align with the individual goals and the company goals, I think you're on a good path to gain operational efficiency, and then eventually you will hopefully get more cash in with a decent cash out. So I for sure think that is key. Absolutely.
Good. And if we focused a little bit on revenue streams, would you say it's important for a SaaS business to have diversified revenue stream and not maybe be too independent on a few clients?
Yeah, I think to be heavily dependent on a few big customers, that could be very risky, especially in early growth stages. And obviously it could impact your cash flow forecasting if one or two big customers that has a large chunk of the ARR base is for whatever reason stopping payment, that could significantly impact your cash flow. And it could also consume resources, right, from the organization if big customers that are, I mean, needs attention, and that so I would for sure try to, if possible, diversify in number of customers. And I would for sure also look into other revenue streams in terms of maybe if you have a sticky B2B SaaS product. I mean, if you have a professional services offering that makes sense, that is adding extra value, and that you can bill for, I mean, it will also add a good cash flow in. I know if you say that, I mean, SaaS company, yeah, we should only focus on SaaS and very limited professional services. Yeah, I mean, the ARR base is driving the valuation of the company. Of course, that is number one. But if you can add other revenue streams on top, that is aligning with your goal of having happier customers buys more, expands, increased net retention. So I wouldn't be afraid to package those type of professional services offering if it aligns with your strategy as well.
Great. No, I can just going back to having those big clients. I was working with 60 companies, and the biggest one was a churn risk. It took 60% of my work week. So I must sort of miss track on other churn risk in my portfolio. So I think that's a super crucial one. Great discussion, Johan. I think we have a lot of questions coming in the chat, but should we try to sort of summarize this with a few key takeaways before diving into the Q&A session?
I think, I mean, as we've said, I mean, to run a successful SaaS company, I think it's important to never lose sight on cash in and the sales business and the efficiency in handovers in the order to cash process. I think that's absolutely key. I think it's key to have a solid technology foundation where you have your ARR metrics and your dashboards in place, and then for sure also remember to take action and don't get stuck in too much like controlling and stuff. Make sure to set it up a dashboard and have your key metrics and that you can drill down, but then remember that it's to run a successful SaaS B2B SaaS company, you need to take action and use technology to free up time for action.
Yeah. Really great takeaways. Before we dive into the chat, I'm sure that many of you who are participating today know something about Younium, but just to give you a short introduction. So we are a subscription management solution, or you can also call it a revenue infrastructure. So basically helping B2B SaaS businesses be in control over the more advanced customer subscriptions. So really providing that single source of truth. And this also means that you can automate billing, more advanced revenue recognition, and in real time get your SaaS metrics and KPIs. So if we look at the typical ecosystem, we usually fit right in the middle of a CRM system and a financial platform. And in some cases, we also connect with your own SaaS service. It can be maybe for billing of usage data, or that you want to run some kind of online sales, or you have self-service for that product-led growth motion. So we're founded in 2017, Swedish founded company. We have 3 commercial hubs that we operate from in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Philadelphia, and then we also have development sites in Malmö and Krakow. Yes, should we dive into the questions, Hervoje? Are you with us? Yes.
Yes, of course. Super insightful session. Thank you so much, Klara and Johan. And of course, thanks to everyone who chipped in with the questions. Big thanks and shout out to Lucy as well. We had a super nice discussion also in the chat box during your chat. Yeah, and really insightful, and love the whole session. But yeah, we have a couple of questions, so maybe that I don't talk so much. Maybe I should dive into those. Let's start with the first one. Is cash flow relevant to all of the stages of the company's journey? And Johan, can you maybe say a bit more on the examples as a startup to scale up enterprise company? I think this is a really good one for everyone. We have like people with different backgrounds here and different sizes of the company. So really interesting question there.
Yeah, I think in the end, I mean, the cash in is what's paying the bills and the salaries to the employees. So I think for sure it is applicable at all stages. And no matter if you're today cash flow positive or not, at some point in time, investors will ask to get some kind of return on investment. So at some point in time, the company is expected to pay back to its shareholder in any way. So, and usually at that point in time, cash flow gets super important. So having that said, I think, but the kind of the arena for cash flow strategies varies a bit. As I said initially, small companies maybe, I mean, needs to nail their product market fit and just onboard the first customers, get them up and running with the solution, and maybe have to have a slightly less focus on the cash in, usually funded by family and friends or business angels and stuff, the first phase. Then moving in on the growth journey, along the way, probably business angels will be shifted out to the VCs. And at that point in time, also usually when the ARR base is much bigger, it opens up debt scenarios. If you do debt on your ARR base, or if you use bank loans, etc. So credit facilities of others. So I think it varies how you are able to finance your companies, and when you even bigger, you can go public and use that arena for funding as well. So I think each stage has its kind of different arena, so to speak, on what an alternatives, but it's always important.
Yeah, thank you. We got also one question, what I think it's really on point with the time with what we're living in, and thanks Mark so much for this one. What are your thoughts on using AI for better cash flow forecasting accuracy?
I think I mean I for sure think that AI will be on the like CFO's best friend. Of course, I think at some point in time, up until now, I haven't seen really good example that is usable to until today. But I for sure think that when it comes to I mean, dunning processes and such, I think to have intelligent cash collection like bots to support you in certain reminding and dunning, I think that could make sense for sure. And we all know that administrative routines and such over time will be complemented by AI at some point. So I think it will be useful in the future, but maybe that's a topic for another webinar. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very important question. Yeah. And Klara mentioned that we are going to also give the guidebook at the end of the webinar. And I really love also the third question, actually, what we got here. The guidebook what we are going to give out is the guidebook on the metrics, and we got actually something connected with the metrics in the question. Is cash flow positive a metric, and should you strive for a company within X number of years, or is there not really a set period for everyone? What do you think there?
I think I think it varies from the stage the company is in. As I said, if you're just starting up, or let's say you're doing a big launch to the US or any other big market that you need like stamina and you need endurance over a period of time until it will pay off. So, but in general, I would say that it should in some way be set by the owners, right? Because the owners are the ones that needs to chip in if it's not cash flow positive. So sorry, usually some kind of owner's agenda, but I would say like 5 to 7 years from is usually where it gets. If you have been on a growth journey, I think that's yeah. If you haven't proven that you can generate enough cash in 5 to 7 years, I think that's a range of years. Then you could have decided, as I said, to do and use the proceeds, but all in all, to show that your engine is efficient, your core processes is able to run cash flow positive.
Thank you. And you mentioned that during the webinar, also you kind of mentioned the automation and technology, and I think this is really, we're kind of super happy to see that our audience paid really well attention to, and some questions are tailored also to talk to what you talked, and it seemed that people are thinking really similar here. How can integrating payment gateways with your subscription management system enhance your cash flow control?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and I think it's a good thing to do and evaluate your customer base. Where is it applicable to do credit card payments? Usually it's a slightly lower payments size, the size of the payments rather than you can do by invoicing. But it's a very good thing. Obviously, it adds a fee to the transaction, so it comes with an additional cost. On the other hand, you get the payment upfront. So I think, yeah, to be able to integrate with payment gateways is very, very good. And the trend is that we see that customers is happy to pay bigger amounts with credit card than we saw a few years ago. So I think it's a good thing.
Klara mentioned a couple of times discounts, and I'm sure that everyone loves prices and pricing. So this is related to this one. What impact do pricing strategies have on a cash flow, and how can we test and implement effective pricing models? And especially how can we kind of hold on the sales with the discounts? Maybe that's a side note from my side.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's very important to have a flexible software tool which really can support your business because we all know different industries have different requirements and such. So I think in all you need a flexible and fairly advanced tools to support you along your growth, because your pricing strategies might change over time as you grow and so I think it's important. It's also important with the payment terms upfront billing, as I've said before. I also think to set up a tiered model where you are preparing the growth tiers for the customers, also very important, so that you can fit that into the system that you're using, so that you can prepare the order once and then you can grow with the customer. So you don't have too much administration if the customer moves up a tier. It should be just a click of the button. I mean, it's a joint collaboration with sales and to find the pricing strategy and an efficient administration. So I think keep up the communication around the pricing structures and the administration, and then you will find a good fit, I hope, for efficient order to cash process.
Johan, we have 2 more questions in 2 more minutes to end the webinar. So let's take this ones also now, and for other questions that we're going to get, we are going to reply to you with the email and answer them after the webinar. Is it better to have a GDR per month or by year on all sales, or split over organization? And what tells a better story and gives a better understanding of your company?
The first question was about was it commission? What was
Is it better to have a GDR per month or by year on all sales, or split or split over organization?
I think it's better to split on the organization and then maybe strive for quarterly. Yeah, that's what I would say. And sorry, now I forgot the other one.
And what does it tell? What tells a better story and gives a better understanding of your company?
Yeah, I'm a bit hard with this last question about the understanding, but I think yeah. What did you say, Klara?
No, sorry. I asked if that was tied to the first question because I didn't
Yeah,
really.
it's like a 2 question in one. Yeah, it's 2
Okay.
question in one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I think it's always good to have a quarterly cycle in your company, and obviously when it comes to financial follow-up, when it comes to upfront billing, I think you should try for as long as possible, usually yearly. That is kind of a standard setup for B2B SaaS. So yeah, that I would go for a quarterly follow-up cycle and then a yearly upfront billing. I don't know really if that was the answer to the question, but yeah.
Let me type those back, and then we are going to answer them in the email.
Yeah.
I got also a bit clarification there on the shortcuts. But we will now we are closing to the end, and not kind of to go over time, because we have one small thing to ask our audience. We are doing a survey, and if you could just take like 5 minutes after the webinar, we will share the link now in the chat box to answer the survey on the SaaS. So we are kind of interested in hearing your thoughts about SaaS and about the metrics, and an insight survey what we have. So yeah, if you have a bit of a time, we will really appreciate if you can chip in a couple of answers for us. Johan, Klara, thank you so much.